Joining us now for World Brief is Adefemi. Sorry, great to have you, Femi.
Good morning, Rufai. How are you doing?
Very well.
Good morning, Ayo. And good morning, Bimbai.
Morning.
You see, it's been a wonderful night. I know Ayo knows because, just yesterday, Arsenal did beat Atletico 4-0. So I'm wearing blue to celebrate the Gooners who've done it again. All righty, well, let's hope we have a better season this year.
Femi, celebrating who?
I said Arsenal beat Atletico 4-0. Yeah.
Good
morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Let us begin in the United States, where Donald Trump, the US president, has brushed off talk of a possible meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Let's take a listen to what Trump had to say.
No, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time, so I'll see what happens. But we did all of these great deals, great peace deals. They're all peace deals. They're agreements, solid agreements, every one of them. But this one, and I said, go to the line of battle, on the battlefield lines, and you pull back and you go home, and everybody takes some time off, because you got two countries that are killing each other. You got two countries that are losing 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers a week. So we'll see what happens. A lot of things are happening on that front, on the war front, with Ukraine and Russia. And we'll be notifying you over the next 2 days as to what.
Well, you heard it. Trump called it a waste of time. Now, you will remember that Trump and Putin last met in Alaska in August during this hastily organized summit in Anchorage, which yielded really no concrete results. Now, on Monday, Trump embraced a ceasefire proposal backed by Kyiv and European leaders to freeze the conflict on the current front line, something that Russia has repeatedly said it is not willing to do. So we'll just have to keep our eyes and ears on that conflict. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, US Vice President J.D. Vance did visit Israel on Tuesday to give an update on how the Gaza peace deal is being implemented. Here's what he had to say.
In the Middle East, and things are going, frankly, better than I expected that they were. This is a very, very tough situation. You have two peoples, two enemies who have fought a very tough conflict against each other. You have a terrorist organization on one hand that murdered a lot of innocent people. You've got an Israeli army that was defending itself on the other, that has learned a lot over the past couple of years. And then, of course, you have an innocent civilian population in Gaza that's caught in the middle. It is a focus of everybody here to get those bodies back home to their families so that they can have a proper burial. Now, that said, this is difficult. This is not going to happen overnight. Some of these hostages are buried under thousands of pounds of rubble. Some of the hostages, nobody even knows where they are. That doesn't mean we shouldn't work to get them, and that doesn't mean we don't have.
Well, yes, as you said, this is a very difficult thing that they're trying to do. Well, Vance also warned that if Hamas does not cooperate, then it will be obliterated, while refusing to give a deadline for when the Palestinian group must disarm. This is a part of US proposal that are yet to be agreed, which, feeds this uncertainty that we're seeing. Nevertheless, let's move over into Europe. In France, Nicolas Sarkozy has become the first former French president to go to prison. He'll be serving his time at La Santé prison, which is a famous French prison in Paris, known for holding several high-profile inmates, essentially. So you've got politicians, spies, members of the French resistance who have served time there. Now, Sarkozy, who was president from 2007 to 2012, was convicted and sentenced to 5 years behind bars for conspiring to fund his election campaign with money from Libyan dictator, the late Muammar Gaddafi. More than 100 people applauded Sarkozy as he was making his way, to prison with his wife in hand. He left his Paris villa and, in the exclusive, I think it's the 16th arrondissement district of Paris, holding his wife Carla Brunei's hand. Sarkozy, as I said, has maintained his innocence throughout this trial process, but he is making his way behind bars. And over to Asia, in Japan, a new chapter is being written as the country has elected, or its parliament has elected, Sanae Takaishi as its first ever woman prime minister. Now, her victory is being hailed as a breakthrough moment for gender equality in a nation long criticized for its lack of female representation in politics and in other areas of leadership. Now, she is a staunch conservative who opposes same-sex marriage, and she has also long stood against legislation that would allow married couples to have separate surnames, preventing any women, for example, from keeping their maiden names. quite controversial there, perhaps. Well, she's also a big fan of former UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. She says that she has always wanted to be the Iron Lady of her own country. So we'll see what that means for Japan. I will come over to my wonderful colleagues for your comments. But before then, let's take a look at the papers from today. As ever, we begin with the front page of This Day. And This Day does report that the APC stakeholders in Lagos, including Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, former governors, including, of course, Babatunde, Raji Fashola, Akiwumi, Ambode, have endorsed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for re-election come 2027. The endorsement took place during a Lagos APC stakeholders forum where party members rolled out the achievements of the Tinubu administration and announced a 20 million naira prize for the best local government with the highest voter registration. Let's take a look at The Punch. Now, The Punch does report that the Northwest chapter of the People's Democratic Party is working to produce a consensus candidate for the position of national chairman. The paper also goes on to say that the move is part of efforts to strengthen unity within the party ahead of the next convention. Shall we take a look at the New Telegraph? Well, the New Telegraph this morning does lead, or rather does report that the Chief of Defence Staff has vowed to go after anyone threatening Nigeria's sovereignty. There we're seeing that the Chief of Defence Staff warning that the military will not tolerate any actions capable of undermining national security or stability. Now, according to that write-up, the CDS reaffirmed the armed forces' commitment to defending democracy and the unity of the nation. Now, onwards to the Vanguard. The Vanguard does report that a court has ordered the remand of Nnamdi Kanu's, his lawyer, his brother, and 10 others in prison custody. Now, if you read the write-up, it goes on to say that the group faces charges related to public disturbance and unlawful assembly during this week's #Free Nnamdi Kanu protest. To the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun does lead this morning with the Christian Association of Nigeria, there we have it, accusing the presidency of twisting facts about the alleged killings and persecution of Christians in parts of Nigeria. The paper goes on to report that can urge the government to acknowledge the scale of these attacks and take concrete steps to protect vulnerable communities here in Nigeria. Well, we've got a double whammy here. Let's take a look at the Daily Trust and the leadership. Both the Daily Trust and the leadership today lead with reports on this tragic gas tanker explosion that took place in Niger State. So we're seeing that on both papers here. Multiple lives, unfortunately, have been lost, which caused widespread also destruction of homes, shops, and vehicles in the vicinity. Now, emergency officials say that rescue operations are ongoing while authorities have launched an investigation into the incident. Now, the Daily Trust also leads with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approving the appointment of Bernard Doro as a minister, though at this point we don't actually know which ministry he will be occupying. Yeah, there's that. Let's look at The Guardian this morning, the Nigerian Guardian this morning. It does lead with concerns that Nigeria's 5G, they call it 5G rollout has failed to meet expectations, and that's as the high cost of compatible smartphones as well as the expensive data services continues to really exclude many low-income Nigerians from being able to reap the benefits of 5G connectivity. The report goes on to highlight that despite government and industry efforts and promises, only a small fraction of users are actually connected to 5G, prompting calls for affordable access and stronger infrastructure investment too. Shall we take a look at the UK Guardian? Yes. Now, the UK, thank you, Rufai. Now, the UK Guardian has a very interesting story. It actually ties into what you were mentioning during the headlines review there. So essentially, you've got a family law shift. It's being held as a victory for children facing domestic abuse. So what they're saying now is that courts will essentially no longer force children to be in contact with both parents if there is examples of domestic abuse in the house. Beforehand, if there was situations between the parents, between the adults, courts had encouraged children to maintain a relationship or maintain access with both parents, even if one is an abuser. And what we're seeing here is this family law shifting so that courts will no longer encourage children to remain in contact with an abusive parent, even if that parent is not abusive to the child, because witnessing domestic abuse is abuse in and of itself. So those are our well-briefed stories and our newspaper review. Now I'll hand over to my wonderful colleagues. Let's hear your thoughts.
Okay, so let me just jump on a couple of things.
Like I've constantly said, we should never, and I'm happy that the military is talking tough, we should never give room to any, form of disturbance, coup, is never the way forward. I must constantly repeat that. Democracy is the best form of government. But secondly, please, let's not downplay the killings of a lot of Christians, because I see, yes, I am not in support of America designating Nigeria as a country of concern, because I know killing and insecurity is pervasive, but it will not denigrate the fact that a lot of Christians are being killed. And that's why I'm happy Khan has come out to speak as regards that meeting they had with the government official, and they're trying to twist the narrative. You can see 2 days in a row now, 2 people relating to the government have tried to twist the narrative. For everybody that does propaganda with the lives of the people, blood of the people, God will judge you. And I just have to say that. What we should now talk about is how the government can get support as regards ridding this country of the insecurity and make a lot of Christians targets. Muslims too are being killed. So let us stop the insecurity. Let us stop the bloodshed. That's the most important thing here. And let's stop playing propaganda with the lives of people. Please, I beg. Like I've also said, declaring Nigeria a country of concern would just only fill this in the narrative of these people that perpetrate this heinous crime, because it's not going to give us the agency we need to be able to fight against this level of insecurity. So that's the narrative there. As regards what is happening with Trump, yes, the reason why he's saying another meeting is not necessary is because he failed in the first one. And when it dawned on him that he failed, he started talking tough against Putin. Then Putin quickly sweetened it up by giving him a call and telling him about a gas deal that he has bought into. Now he has gone against Ukraine and the European partners. And that's what, like I was saying, is the people cannot trust Trump. And that's just it. Because you see, when people don't know where you are here today, you are there tomorrow, it creates problems for the international order. And we're quickly going to an era of Thucydides' trap. If you go back in history, when Thucydides wrote about the Peloponnesian Wars, the contention of forces, and this is tilting towards the East and those aligned with the East, Russia, India, China, and the likes, because for the very first time in a long time, you see the leader of the free world that is not stable. And his partners cannot trust him. And that is, disturbing a lot of things. Look at the deals and the agreements that Europe wanted to start pumping weaponry into Ukraine. All of that has been stalled because they trusted Trump at some point. We shouldn't be talking about reviewing Tomahawk now. At this point in time, Tomahawk should have been deployed, because Russia has not stopped bombarding Ukraine. Ukraine, yes, is fighting back with some drones, but you need some higher power. So it shows that there's going to be a stalemate. They'll keep bombarding each other. The humanitarian cost will continue. And don't believe the lies of J.D. Vance when he says the deal they did in Gaza really worked. It didn't work. It's still been killings. What Israel is doing now is they kill, and they go back and say, we are still maintaining the peace agreement. Just for 2 Israeli soldiers that was attacked, 26 people killed in Gaza the other day. And they will only continue that killings. And it's also happening not only in Gaza, but in West Bank, where Palestinian people are there. And that's why we keep talking about the genocide that is happening. As regards Sarkozy, definitely we'll get it at some point, but it's symbolic that a French president has gone in there. But I think the real victory should go to media power. The French independent investigative journalism outfit that stood tall, reported the story, and stood by their story over the years and forced the system to be able to do something. And it really shows that good journalism does work.
Absolutely, all right. Good journalism, good governance does work. And talking about governance and oversight, let me go to a headline, a story just at the bottom of the New Telegraph. You could miss it, but I think it's important. As I talked about earlier, it says reps gives federal government 2 weeks to provide detailed financial intervention to states outside, a detailed report on financial interventions to states outside FARC. I bring this story up because earlier on I talked about how, following the APC Stakeholders Forum and the money is already been, talked about, 20 million to, local government with the highest number of registered voters, wards would get 10 million for the same, that what we're saying is that in the next election, it's going to be heavily monetized. And when we talk about monetized, we also begin to see spurious projects around this period. And that's why we must take a close look at monies that are being disbursed that comes outside FARC allocations. So what the reps have said is that they're going to invest things like ecological fund, budget support facilities, infrastructure funds, emergency relief grants given to some states. It is important that we're able to track which states this money went to, what the money was spent, how the money was spent, and if it was used for what it was said to be. Because sometimes you just distribute this money and nothing to show for it. Only earlier this week, the Vice President had said that over 39,000 MSMEs had benefited from 2.5 billion naira grants. Who are these MSMEs? We announced it. There are lots of announcements around these things, but we can't really seem to see the tangible effect of these monies being distributed. So it's our collective wealth. Let us investigate, and I hope it's not just a headline. I hope the reps will actually perform their duty of oversight and ensure that every penny or even every kobo is accounted for. Now, going on to Japan, congratulations to the first female prime minister. One of the things, by the way, she was once a newscaster, briefly. So it could be our turn very soon. Our local is the newscaster. But very importantly is the fact that people have talked about how she's very staunchly for Abenomics, beyond her support of Margaret Thatcher. And Japan currently faces economic issues around high inflation and rising costs. Recall that Abenomics, on 3 arrows, aggressive monetary easing. The second was flexible fiscal policies and also structural reforms. It didn't address inflation at the time. That target was 2%. They never hit that target. So I'm not sure how she wants to do it differently, and if she would be able to succeed following a model that quite failed in the same issues or the same issues as she seeks to address. But congratulations to her. We're really excited about that. Not only is she female, but she was once a newscaster. I identify with that.
Well, she's certainly hit the ground running, that's for sure. She's already made some cabinet appointments, immediately after her swearing in. And one of those is Kimi Onoda. Now, Kimi Onoda is going to be the Minister of Foreigner Policy, not foreign policy, foreigner policy. And of course, this speaks right into the narrative that we already know is unfortunately gaining momentum in Japan. Anti-immigration sentiment, this commitment to far-rightism, purism where culture is concerned and so forth. And Kimi Onoda's agenda is to, by all means necessary, clamp down on all illegal immigration, mass deportations, you name it. That's what's coming up for Japan. But it's quite interesting to know that she's actually American-born. Kimi Onoda herself, her father's Caucasian, her mother is Japanese. So she's not a pure Japanese citizen, if we may, if such a thing exists in this global world that we live in now. But it will be interesting to see how she tackles these issues. Nicolas Sarkozy, as far as I'm concerned, I think that it's just a slap on the wrist, to be honest with you. Because if you look at the role that Nicolas Sarkozy played in destabilizing the entire Sahel through spearheading the fall of Gaddafi and what happened to Libya, all this Gaddafi gave him money for his election and all, it's a scratch on the surface compared to the consequences we're still suffering currently across the Sahel due to the way Libya fell and the fact that Libya has still not recovered from what happened to that country. So going to a luxury prison, as far as I'm concerned, is almost just like he's going on a sabbatical. He'll probably write a book and come out as more of a celebrity than anything else. So I'm a little bit disappointed. I wanted to see something more harsh towards Nicolas Sarkozy. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, bring him to Kirikiri. We're most hospitable to his likes over here. Now, as I round up in Nigeria, I think it was Vanguard that focused on the arraignment of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer and his brother and so forth. Now, when I read the FIR report, what caught my attention is that besides inciting public, inciting public disorder and so forth, they also indicted him for chanting war songs. Now, this was a point of concern to me because I'm seeing too many parallels that are getting concerning. If you look at what happened in South Africa, the first accusation that the United States made to South Africa was the accusation of genocide, which was not true. Then the next accusation was that they brought forward Julius Malema. If you remember, one of the issues with Julius Malema is that he chants war songs. Now, we're seeing that there are accusations of genocide coming towards Nigeria. We're now seeing that there's some sort of witch hunt towards people who are chanting war songs. It might just be an unfortunate coincidence, but I think we need to be careful with that. As much as I have a leaning to a preference towards Donald Trump as an American president, I'm a Pan-Africanist first and foremost. So we need to be careful about some of these agenda that may be internationally driven and the impact that they have on our local governance.